It was a Friday night at La Belle Époque, the luxury restaurant I had poured my heart and soul into building. The place buzzed with the clinking of crystal glasses, the murmur of expensive conversations, and the soft hum of live piano music drifting through the air. Servers glided across the marble floors like shadows, balancing trays laden with dishes that cost more than most people made in a week. And there I was, me, Evelyn Carter, the owner of this establishment, wearing a black apron over my designer dress, serving tables because one of my waitstaff had called in sick. I wasn't ashamed to roll up my sleeves when needed. After all, this restaurant was my dream. But tonight felt different. The energy in the room crackled with an undercurrent of tension as soon as he walked in, a man whose reputation preceded him. Marcus Langley, billionaire tech mogul, strode through the entrance like he owned the place. His tailored navy suit screamed wealth, his Rolex gleamed under the chandeliers, and his smirk seemed permanently etched onto his face. He scanned the dining area with disdain before settling on me, holding out his menu without even looking at me properly. "This is your best table," he drawled, his voice dripping with condescension. "Even beggars wouldn't eat this food." The words hit me like a slap. My hands froze mid-motion as I adjusted his napkin. For a moment, I thought I'd misheard him. But no, the sneer curling his lips confirmed it. Every pair of eyes in the vicinity turned toward us, their gazes sharp and curious. Heat rushed to my cheeks, but not from embarrassment. No, this was something else entirely, anger simmering beneath the surface, threatening to boil over. Marcus leaned back in his chair, oblivious to the storm brewing inside me. "You know," he continued, louder now, clearly enjoying the attention, "if you can't afford decent staff, maybe you should reconsider running such a pretentious operation." His laugh echoed across the room, punctuated by scattered chuckles from his entourage seated beside him. My jaw tightened, but I forced myself to stay composed. This wasn't just about me. It was about every person who worked here, every late night I'd spent perfecting recipes, every sacrifice I'd made to turn this dream into reality. I couldn't let him see how deeply his words cut. Not yet. Instead, I gave him a polite smile, though my knuckles whitened around the tray. "Would you care for some water while you decide on your order, sir?" I asked, my tone smooth despite the fury bubbling within me. He waved me off dismissively, already engrossed in mocking another server nearby. As I stepped away, I caught glimpses of pitying looks from my team and judgmental stares from other patrons. Some whispered behind their menus, others shook their heads. It stung, but only for a second, because deep down, I knew what came next would change everything. Tonight wasn't going to end with Marcus Langley walking away unscathed. Oh no. Tonight, he was going to learn exactly who I am and why crossing me was the biggest mistake of his life. Let me take you back to earlier that day, long before Marcus Langley sauntered into La Belle Époque. It started like any other morning, well, almost. The sun peeked through the blinds of my apartment, casting golden streaks across the hardwood floor. I woke up early as usual, fueled by the kind of restless energy that comes with knowing you're responsible for something bigger than yourself. Today wasn't supposed to be special. Just another day at the helm of the restaurant I'd built from scratch. But fate has a funny way of rewriting plans. By 8 a.m., I was already at the restaurant, reviewing inventory lists and finalizing prep schedules with Chef Antoine. We were preparing for a busy weekend, and every detail mattered. The kitchen smelled of fresh herbs and simmering sauces, a comforting reminder of why I fell in love with this industry in the first place. My phone buzzed incessantly, emails from suppliers, texts from staff, reservation confirmations piling up. Yet amidst the chaos, there was a rhythm, a quiet satisfaction in seeing everything come together. But then came the call that changed everything. One of my servers, Mia, phoned in sick. She sounded miserable, her voice hoarse and strained. "Evelyn, I'm so sorry," she rasped. "I'll make it up to you, I promise." Normally, I'd have shrugged it off. These things happen. But today we were short-staffed as it was. Every server counted. So, without hesitation, I told her to rest and assured her I'd cover her shift. After all, I'd waited tables myself during the early days of opening the restaurant. How hard could it be? What I didn't anticipate was how much the universe seemed determined to test me. By noon, disaster struck again. Our sous chef accidentally burned his hand while pulling a tray out of the oven. He was rushed to urgent care, leaving us short-handed in the kitchen too. Chef Antoine shot me a look that said, "We'll manage," but I could see the stress lines forming around his eyes. And then, just as dinner service approached, the power flickered. Not enough to shut us down, but enough to send everyone into a panic. That's when I realized tonight wasn't going to be easy. Still, I rolled up my sleeves, tied on an apron, and stepped into the fray. If anyone noticed their boss doubling as a waitress, they didn't say a word. Everyone was too busy scrambling to keep the ship afloat. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd worked tirelessly to build a business where I could step back and focus on strategy, yet here I was, juggling plates and refilling water glasses like I had years ago. And then Marcus Langley walked in. In hindsight, maybe I should have seen it coming. Wealthy clients often visited La Belle Époque, drawn by its reputation for excellence. But none of them carried themselves quite like Marcus. From the moment he entered, he radiated entitlement, his presence commanding attention whether he wanted it or not. When he made that crack about beggars and our food, part of me wanted to snap right then and there, to reveal who I really was and watch the smugness drain from his face. But I didn't. Instead, I swallowed my pride, reminded myself of the bigger picture, and kept moving. Because sometimes, revenge isn't about lashing out in the heat of the moment. Sometimes, it's about patience. About waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike. And trust me, Marcus Langley had no idea what was coming. As Marcus settled deeper into his seat, his arrogance only grew thicker, suffocating the atmosphere around him. He gestured lazily to the waiter approaching his table, barely sparing him a glance. "Bring me the most expensive bottle you have," he barked, his tone laced with derision. "Though I doubt it'll be worth the price tag." His companions chuckled nervously, exchanging glances that spoke volumes about their discomfort. They were used to his antics, perhaps even encouraged them, but tonight, something felt different. Maybe it was the weight of his words hanging heavy in the air, or perhaps it was the collective unease rippling through the room. I moved quietly between tables, my movements deliberate yet unobtrusive, ensuring each guest felt attended to without drawing undue attention to myself. But every time I passed Marcus's table, his voice carried over the gentle hum of conversation, slicing through the ambience like a knife. Honestly, he scoffed to his entourage, loud enough for nearby diners to hear. "This place is trying way too hard to impress people who don't belong here." His gaze swept dismissively over the room, lingering momentarily on me as if daring me to react. Each insult landed like a punch to the gut, but I refused to let him see the cracks forming beneath my calm exterior. Instead, I focused on the warmth emanating from the other patrons, those who exchanged sympathetic smiles with me, their eyes soft with understanding. There was Mrs. Thompson, a regular who always ordered the lavender creme brulee, nodding subtly in solidarity. And Mr. Patel, who frequented the restaurant weekly, offering a small, encouraging smile as I refilled his glass. Their silent support bolstered my resolve, reminding me that this wasn't just my battle. It was theirs too. Yet, amidst the sea of empathetic faces, there were also those who recoiled, visibly uncomfortable with the spectacle unfolding before them. A young couple at a nearby table shifted awkwardly in their seats, clearly torn between enjoying their meal and confronting the growing tension. Others whispered behind raised menus, their expressions a mix of disapproval and reluctant fascination. The room had transformed into a stage, and Marcus, unknowingly, was the villain of the piece. Every snide comment he made reverberated through the restaurant, amplifying the divide between those who stood with me and those who cowered under his shadow. But with each barb, my determination hardened. I wasn't just fighting for myself anymore. I was fighting for every person who believed in the vision I had created, for every employee who worked tirelessly to bring that vision to life. And as Marcus continued his tirade, oblivious to the storm brewing within me, I knew the moment of reckoning was drawing near. It happened faster than I expected. Marcus had been sipping his wine. Yes, the outrageously expensive bottle he demanded, when he leaned back at his chair, surveying the room with that same insufferable smirk. "You know," he announced loudly, swirling the glass like he was auditioning for a luxury commercial, "places like this thrive on fooling people into thinking mediocrity is sophistication." His laughter rang out, sharp and grating, cutting through the hushed murmurs of the dining room. That's when I decided it was time. I approached his table, my steps steady and deliberate, the tray in my hands perfectly balanced despite the storm raging inside me. "Is everything to your liking, Mr. Langley?" I asked, my voice calm but carrying an edge that silenced the entire room. Conversations halted mid-sentence, forks paused halfway to mouths, and all eyes turned toward us. Even Marcus looked momentarily taken aback by the sudden shift in energy. "Actually," I continued, setting the tray down with a soft clink, "there's something I'd like to share with you." I reached into the pocket of my apron and pulled out a small leather-bound notebook, the same one I used to jot down daily operations, supplier notes, and staff schedules. Flipping it open, I slid it across the table toward him. "This is my restaurant," I said, my tone firm and unwavering. "And these are the financial records proving it." His smirk faltered, replaced by confusion. "What are you talking about?" he snapped, though his voice lacked its earlier bravado. "I'm Evelyn Carter," I replied, letting the name hang in the air like a challenge. "Owner of La Belle Époque. You've spent the last 20 minutes insulting not just me, but every single person working here tonight, including yourself, apparently, since you're dining in what you seem to think is a mediocre establishment." The room erupted into gasps and murmurs. Marcus's face flushed red, his jaw tightening as he struggled to process the situation. This is ridiculous," he stammered, glancing around for support from his entourage. But they avoided his gaze, shifting uncomfortably in their seats. "Oh, it gets better," I said, leaning slightly forward, my voice dropping to a level that demanded absolute attention. "You see, Mr. Langley, I believe in treating people with respect, even those who might not deserve it. So instead of throwing you out right now, which I could easily do, I'm going to offer you a choice. You can either apologize sincerely to everyone here and leave quietly, or," I paused, letting the tension stretch taut like a bowstring, "or I'll personally ensure that your little outburst becomes headline news tomorrow morning. Trust me, billionaires don't fare well in public opinion polls when they're caught mocking hardworking individuals." For a moment, the only sound was the faint ticking of the grandfather clock in the corner. Then Marcus stood abruptly, knocking over his chair in his haste. "Fine," he muttered, his voice low and venomous. "I apologize." He glanced around the room, his apology forced but audible. "To everyone, satisfied?" I nodded curtly. "Good. Now, please enjoy the rest of your evening elsewhere." As he stormed out, his entourage trailing behind him like chastised puppies, the room erupted into applause. Patrons rose to their feet, cheering and whistling, while my staff gathered around me, their faces glowing with pride. In that moment, I realized this wasn't just about putting Marcus in his place, it was about standing up for something greater than myself. And it felt incredible. The aftermath of Marcus Langley's humiliation spread like wildfire. Within hours, whispers turned into stories, and stories morphed into legends. Social media lit up with posts from patrons who had witnessed the showdown firsthand, tagging La Belle Époque and sharing videos of the climactic moment. Hashtags like #RespectYourServer and #Billionaires Behaving Badly trended overnight, catapulting my restaurant, and me, into the spotlight. Journalists clamored for interviews, bloggers dissected every detail, and local news anchors hailed me as a hero for standing up to elitism. But beyond the viral fame and media frenzy, the real impact unfolded in quieter, more profound ways. The following week, I received dozens of letters and emails from strangers, waitstaff, chefs, bartenders, and hospitality workers across the country who thanked me for giving them hope. One message stood out. A young waitress wrote about how she'd been bullied by a customer earlier that year and felt powerless to respond. Seeing you stand up to someone like Marcus Langley made me realize I deserve respect too, she wrote. Thank you for showing me that strength isn't about yelling louder. It's about doing what's right, even when it's hard. Inside the restaurant, the transformation was equally palpable. My team walked taller, their confidence buoyed by the knowledge that they were valued and protected. During our next staff meeting, Mia, the server whose absence had thrust me into waitressing duty, teared up as she recounted how proud she was to work somewhere that prioritized dignity over profit. You didn't just offend us, she said, her voice trembling. You reminded us why we chose this job in the first place, to create joy, not endure abuse. Even the regular patrons noticed the shift. Mrs. Thompson, ever the observant diner, remarked during her next visit, there's a new energy here. It's like the whole place breathes easier now. She wasn't wrong. The atmosphere at La Belle Époque had transformed, infused with a sense of unity and purpose that went far beyond exceptional cuisine or impeccable service. People weren't just coming for the food, they were coming for the story, for the promise of being part of something meaningful. For me, the experience became a turning point. It wasn't just about vindication, it was about validation. Standing up to Marcus reinforced my belief in the importance of kindness, empathy, and integrity, not just as ideals, but as non-negotiable principles. I began implementing changes at the restaurant, starting with mandatory training sessions on conflict resolution and workplace respect. I also introduced a guest code of conduct policy, making it clear that disrespect would not be tolerated under any circumstances. To my surprise, these measures didn't deter customers. They attracted even more. Word-of-mouth praise brought in new faces eager to support a business rooted in values rather than vanity. And then there was Marcus himself. Though he vanished from public view after the incident, rumors swirled about his plummeting reputation among peers and investors. A few weeks later, I received an envelope containing a handwritten note. In neat, precise handwriting, it read, "Asterisk, you were right. Respect matters. Thank you for teaching me that lesson." Asterisk, no signature, but I didn't need one. Whether genuine or coerced by PR advisors, the acknowledgement meant something. Redemption, I realized, isn't always loud or dramatic. It's often found in small, quiet moments of accountability. Looking back, I understood that the confrontation wasn't just about me versus Marcus. It was about choosing courage over complacency, humanity over hierarchy. It reminded me why I started this journey in the first place, to build a space where everyone from the dishwasher to the diner felt seen, heard, and valued. And in doing so, I discovered that true success isn't measured in accolades or profits. It's measured in the lives you touch along the way. Reflecting on that unforgettable night, I realized how profoundly it reshaped not just my perspective, but also the very essence of La Belle Époque. Each memory serves as a poignant reminder of the delicate balance between power and humility, wealth and humanity. That evening, amidst the glittering chandeliers and the murmurs of astonished diners, I learned that true strength lies not in domination but in the quiet, steadfast commitment to uphold dignity, for oneself and for others. Marcus Langley's mockery was a mirror reflecting societal flaws, exposing the stark disparity between privilege and empathy. It underscored a truth I hold dear. Respect is not a privilege to be earned but a fundamental right inherent to every individual, regardless of their station in life. This ordeal illuminated the critical role of kindness in leadership. Managing La Belle Époque is no longer merely about curating exquisite dining experiences. It's about fostering an environment where every team member feels empowered and respected. Implementing policies that champion respect and fairness has cultivated a culture of mutual appreciation and collaboration. These changes resonate deeply with our patrons, who increasingly choose us not just for our culinary excellence, but for our ethos. This alignment of values enhances the dining experience, transforming meals into meaningful interactions imbued with warmth and authenticity. Moreover, the incident with Marcus taught me invaluable lessons about personal growth and resilience. Facing adversity head-on, especially when it challenges one's identity and values, demands courage and conviction. It's about embracing vulnerability, allowing oneself to feel the sting of injustice, and channeling that emotion into constructive action. This transformative experience has fortified my resolve, instilling a relentless drive to advocate for fairness and equality within my sphere of influence. It has also deepened my understanding of redemption and forgiveness, recognizing that everyone deserves a chance to learn and grow from their mistakes. Ultimately, this chapter in my life has crystallized my belief in the power of standing firm in one's convictions. It's a testament to the enduring impact of choosing integrity over intimidation, compassion over contempt. As I continue to lead La Belle Époque, these principles guide every decision, every interaction, ensuring that our legacy is not just one of gastronomic brilliance, but of heartfelt humanity.